Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the Kimbley IT podcast, our first podcast of 2020. How are you doing, Carl? You have a good Christmas?
It was all right. Yeah.
It seems odd asking you about it at the end of January, but as I already know your answers. But
yes,
the listeners don't. So what did you get up to?
I spent it with my family, James. It was a quiet Christmas with my little girls, Dixie and Shiloh. So all that kind of stuff. A couple of beers here and there at home. Girls playing with toys. Usual kind of thing.
Yep.
It was all righty. And you know what? Today is all righty too because it's my birthday, James.
Yeah, 68, aren't you?
68. That's right. Yeah, I'm looking pretty good for 68. Doing all right.
I thought you were older, to be honest, but
well, I knew that you would think that because you're rude.
So what is your real age?
46 today.
46.
I know. Nearer to 50 now. Flipping heck.
Yep. If you make 100 years, you've done 47% of your life so far.
Well, you know what, James? That doesn't make it sound so bad. I'm better with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not even halfway.
Yep.
Quite good with that.
And the thing is, as technology is getting better and medical technology is getting better, in your lifetime, there should be some improvements that will probably extend your life for maybe 5 or an extra 10 years.
Well, James, there was an interesting article on the BBC only yesterday about changes in looking for a cure on cancer and a little bit of a breakthrough coming through.
I saw the headline this morning, but I didn't read it. What was it about? Let us know if you read it.
I read it and it doesn't go into too much detail, but it would appear that very, very much at the beginning of a research and development phase, they have worked out that there's receptors that fit inside receptors inside antibodies in the human body. And they've done some testing and they think they've worked out one way that they can get one type of antibody to go and eat cancer, kill cancer in the same way that we heal anything else in our bodies. And they think they've had a breakthrough in how that works. And not only in one type of cancer, but multiple types of cancer, lung cancer and pancreatic and other of the more virulent cancers that kill people. So it's a long, long way off, but it sounds like a genuine breakthrough.
Yeah, there may well be a cure for cancer in our lifetime.
I think so. I definitely think that will happen in our lifetime. So there you go. Yeah. Right. Advances in medical technology. I'm betting on them for the future as well.
So as we're in the recap, we've created a new form that collects stats on our support and assistance. So at the end of last episode, I announced all our support statistics for the previous year for 2019, which a lot of people found quite interesting. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't heard it. But as I was creating that report, saying the breakdown of how we were helping people, which methods they were getting in contact and all that stuff, I realized we could do that a lot more detailed and get even more stats. So over Christmas, I created a brand new form with a lot more, it goes into a lot more detail, and it's collecting so much great information.
You love some stats, don't you?
I do now. It's using Google Forms, and I've actually got something worthwhile to put into a Google form. So, for example, here already, G Suite services, the most common one is actually this year's people asking about their user account.
Yeah.
So it's not Gmail or Google Drive or anything like that. We've now got user account because we weren't counting that one before, but now we're counting that. We can see that. Also, the ways that people get in contact with us. So the vast majority of ways people have got in contact with us is as we thought through Hangouts. We've had a handful of emails and one telephone call that someone's reached out to get in contact with us, an end user. But it's just stats that we didn't have as much of a breakdown as we do now, because as you know, you fill in the form after you've completed a client. It's way more detailed than before. And what we'll be able to pull out at the end of the year is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your end of year statistical breakdown.
Well, yes, it's for that, but it means that we can see areas that we need to help people on. If we're getting lots of assistance requests on a certain part of G Suite, we know, okay, let's focus some training on that area. That's where people are struggling. Let's say you've got like a 90-minute training session and we haven't got many people reporting or asking for help about Gmail. You can shrink that part down in the training session and expand an area where people are struggling a bit more.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Just awesome insights. So I don't know how many other IT companies go deep into these insights. I've never seen another IT company do end of year stats like we did. But Yeah, it's fantastic. And we've got it right down to every single individual end user as well, so we can see which end users are getting in contact more than others, and see what's going on there.
I reckon most other IT companies have tickets. Then they look at how many tickets there were per customer in a year, and that leads them then to decide who's profitable and not profitable. But they don't do any analysis into how they can help them. It'll literally be who's got to pay more money.
So what you guys did in your previous business, I've never worked in another IT company, but you have. So was that what went on?
Pretty much that, James. You would have a look at who was generating the most work for you, and those people who are generating more work would be the ones that you would want to then talk about charging more money in the next year. You wouldn't discount those that did less either. That didn't generally happen. But one thing that never happened was you didn't look at what the problems were about and how you could help alleviate them. That was not analysed. I don't reckon most others do either.
Wow. We'll see if they will copy next year. So well, anyone else puts their stats out.
If any of them are listening and they now want to say, get out of town, Carl, you're completely wrong, let us know.
And then put your stats out at the end of the year and let's see who's got the better stats. Have a little bit of a competition.
Stats battle?
Yeah, stats battle.
Okay.
It's like, remember on MTV, they used to have celebrity deathmatch with like Play-Doh characters and stuff like that.
Yes, I do, yeah.
Let's have an MSP stat deathmatch at the end of the year.
Let's put it forward to the CompTIA event and see if we can have it.
Yep. Let's see who wins.
Okay.
So you had a great day trip yesterday, didn't you?
Oh yeah, fabulous.
So three hours down to Kent and 3 hours back, and you drove all the way down there with a bricked Unify security.
Oh, no, it was already appliance. There. It was already there.
Oh, so you drove down to try and connect a bricked Unify security switch, whatever it's called.
Firewall up to a broadband connection, and I found that the device was, as James called it, bricked, which basically means it doesn't do anything. It might as well be a brick.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah. And then I came all the way back. It's a long 6.5 hours of driving, but I did get to listen to some audio books, so you know.
3 hour drive down there for an hour on site.
But not even that. Not even that. Yeah. Well, that's how it goes sometimes.
Pure bad luck, that is. There's nothing you can do about that. There's no way of knowing if something's dead on arrival until you unbox it and plug it in.
I should have guessed because it's far away. It's always when it's far away. It's never broken when it's down the road.
I think the replacement you should get delivered to yourself, get delivered to us, and then test it out, and then drive down there.
Agreed.
We got Windows 7's been is fun. We've got 4 devices that are on Windows 7, but these are actually on Windows 7 still because they are provided by car manufacturers. So we have a client who repairs cars, and for certain bits of software they have to be done on specific devices, and it's quite amazing how dated car manufacturers are with their software. So they haven't even updated their software to run on Windows 10, so they're on Windows 7, and we've had to buy extended support licenses for these devices just because the car manufacturers are so behind and dated with the software they hand out.
That's exactly the reason why when you see this stuff in the news, they'll mention like medical healthcare and things like that. They write a piece of software to talk to an expensive medical device, and no one's ever going to care for updating it. Like they'll just go, no, that runs on Windows 7 forever. We'll never change it until you change the MRI scanner. And it's in the same with these manufacturers. They're just stuck in these older systems.
Yeah, and it's surprising because you think car manufacturers would be pushing technology and keeping their stuff up.
Some of them are. Porsches, all their stuff's bang up to date, was always Windows 10 from when we started with them.
Well, there's a few luxury brands. We won't name the luxury brands, but there's a few luxury brands that are using still on Windows 7. You have to use a Windows 7 device to be able to connect to the cars and do what you need to do with the software.
That's right. Some of those are actually high-end brands as well, not just luxury brands, but high-performance supercar brands. Yep.
Yeah, if the amount of money you're paying for that car, you wouldn't be best pleased knowing the software that they're using behind it to keep it running and up to date.
Yeah, so that's meant we've been buying some extended support agreements for those machines to give another year, which is enough time then to get prodding these manufacturers to see if we can get Windows 10 in.
Well, I imagine we'll be buying the licenses for the following 2 years as well until Microsoft completely and utterly stops doing the extended licenses, because the car manufacturers aren't going to move until they really, really have to.
There are some options with some of them. Some of them they do have an option to go to Windows 10, but it's so horrendously expensive. It doesn't make much sense for the customer to do it because they're being profiteered on.
Oh yeah, truly. It's like a laptop that we could go out to a shop, buy for £400. It would run the software without a problem. You can't do that. You have to buy the laptop off them for £7,000.
Yeah, it's something stupid like that. Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
In the news.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's happened in the news. So there was this Maze ransomware attack that took place on a US-based company. Let me just open the article so I can see which one it was.
Yeah, it was a US-based company, and they were threatened with £6 million to get their data back and unencrypt it all.
Yeah, $6 million.
Yeah, $6 million. Yeah.
Yeah, they refused to pay that, and they've actually now taken the authors of this ransomware Maze to court. Of course, that the ransomware guys are never going to turn up in court, so court case will happen, but they won't turn up. But it's kind of a clever tactic. So what they're doing is, this is US law. So when the US government does finally catch these ransomware authors, if they ever do, and they're able to get money off them, get some assets off them, the company that's sued will be first in line because they're the first company that's taken a legal action against these guys. So if there's any money to be handed out, they'll get some of it. Yeah,
they've staked their claim really with that, haven't they?
Yeah. They basically made themselves #1 creditors that need to be repaid.
I also noted that they have issued a lawsuit against a company that the Maze ransomware criminals used to post the data online, and they've said to that company, take that data down or we'll sue you.
Yep.
That's worked. So they've taken it down.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll keep doing that to any company that puts it up, or you now know that's going to happen to you. You're unlikely to put the data on your service. If you know that data's there, you're going to remove it pretty quickly.
I would imagine that's only work for a while, James, before the criminals will just host it on somewhere where there's no jurisdiction or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's probably already out on the dark web.
Yeah, well, it'll be dark web, but this wasn't dark web.
No, not on this case. It was public.
I think they want people to find it.
Yeah, that's how they get. If you're going to hold someone to ransom and put their stuff out on the internet, you want to make it as easy as possible for people to find it.
Yeah.
Which the dark web doesn't make it that easy for most normal people.
No, absolutely. It's an interesting case that you brought forward in that one, because it's the continuing journey of ransomware and its story, and it's forever changing, and it's not certainly something that's been and gone. It's constantly evolving, that threat.
Yeah, I wrote a blog post after that I put on Kimbley IT about people who don't give a toss about ransomware, never think it's going to happen to them, but it will.
Yeah.
A lot of small business owners don't think it'll happen to them. They'll go after big businesses, and then for example, with this business and ask them for $6 million, but they won't do that. They go after small businesses, and they might ask you for £16,000. And can you pay £16,000? Can you? It's sort of Travelex as well. We've got Travelex at the moment that haven't been doing business since the start of the year because they've been attacked and their systems have been locked out. I doubt many small businesses could last, what is it now? Let's say 20, about 18 days, because you've got a bit of a break at the start of the year, 18 days into January and not have done any business. I think your clients would start going elsewhere by now.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I look at it, ransomware, people are just lucky. Most businesses just sat there being lucky. All it takes is one bad email that you open, and the stuff will just encrypt everything in your network. And those companies that have either poor IT support, or more likely, most businesses have nothing, they don't have anything, they are in big trouble. But they will never feel it until it happens.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we had a lead come through on our website yesterday who we gave them a price for how much support would be, and they're only paying £150 a month at the moment for their support. I suspect that might be why they're looking around for other options, because you don't get good support for £150 a month. No. But surprisingly, they actually told me on the chat that they were looking for a lower price than £150 a month. That's not going to be protecting you or giving you any good value IT service at all for that amount of money.
No chance. Just you might as well not bother.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be better off not bothering, actually.
Yeah,
you're probably better off with the default built-in Windows settings, or their secure settings on Windows or Macs, and just sticking with the defaults.
Yeah, save you 1,300 quid for the ransomware later.
Yeah, because you'll need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully they won't ask for more. But if they do, you're in trouble. Next story is about Toyota. So Toyota owns a 170-acre bit of land over in Japan. It's an old factory, used to be there, and they want to now. It's clear the factory is no longer there, and they want to build a prototype city of the future there. But they want this to be an actual genuine city with thousands of citizens living in there, which they can then experiment with new technology, such as testing autonomous vehicles, innovative street design, smart home technology, robotics, and on all their new mobility products on a population of real people who would live there full time in this city. It's interesting because Google tried to do this over in Toronto. Well, they still are trying to do it in a place called Sidewalk Labs, and they have had a lot of backlash against it, who feel it's just profiteering on urban people's lives. And Google's only after a 12-acre site over there. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But in Tokyo, I think in Japan, it's more likely to happen, especially with Toyota being such a important company for the Japanese economy.
Yeah, it was interesting when I read that they're basing a lot of the power on its hydrogen fuel cell technology as well in that city, which would be that's really interesting because it's just better than batteries.
Yeah, that's what Toyota's been focusing their thing on. They've had the Prius, which was battery technology, but they haven't really done anything more with battery technology or done anything more with their cars, because they're completely focusing on the hydrogen fuel cell.
I think that's the ultimate winning solution over the battery, mate.
It is. I remember actually BMW used to do it. They had back in the 90s, they had a hydrogen fuel cell that they were experimenting with. I think they abandoned it after a few years, but they had been experimenting with it, and because they're going electric now with batteries. But Toyota's sticking with the hydrogen fuel cell.
It'd be an interesting crossover, James, because if you think about, you got electric car now and you got a 7.k kilowatt car charger, you can maybe charge in 30 minutes, something like that, enough to keep you going on your range. But if at the crossover period of everyone going to electric cars, they come out with hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle where you can go to the station and fill up in the standard style and go as far as you want, drive to John O'Groats, I reckon those cars will win.
I know it could be a Betamax versus VHS thing, in that the infrastructure is all now in place for electric cars, and electric car charging has got quick enough that it's acceptable, that actually the hydrogen fuel cell comes along. It's better technology, but it just doesn't take off because they're the only car company doing it, and everyone else sticks with electricity.
No, I know, I understand that. It'll be what that speed of the charge is. I don't know. I suppose 30 minutes isn't a fat lot, but you've still got to stop for 30 minutes, and
it'll be that, and it'll be associated costs, whichever's cheapest overall to manufacture, I'd imagine, as well.
And the range, I suppose. If you can give me a car with 300-mile range, I'm pretty happy with waiting 30 minutes on 300 miles because that's a good drive.
Yeah, but in the end, it'll be if Toyotas are significantly cheaper.
Well, I suppose.
Based on the technology.
Yeah, if it's significantly cheaper, I'll buy one. Yeah,
and then other car manufacturers will start putting it into their cars, and that could cross back over. But again, it's one of those things we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess the Toyota are rolling their dice on that.
Got another one now, Impossible Foods.
Yes.
Impossible Foods are launching a plant-based pork and sausage this year.
Yep.
So they've been doing plant-based beef before. Interestingly, has food become technology? Because they revealed this at CES.
That's the show in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the Consumer Electronics Show, as it used to be known.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a bit of food that has now been revealed at CES. So food has now become technology. I guess there's a lot of technology behind making the food, but yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's got a technology angle on it as well.
Big fad, whatever you want to call it, the last 2 years, veganism, no doubt about that. There's obviously the environmental impact of meat on the world in climate change. So this is a popular thing. I've yet to try any of these decent products yet. I've not been able to try any of them because in Telford you can't get them. Yeah,
you're still hunter-gatherers over there.
Have you eaten one of these decent branded meat products?
I've not eaten a decent branded one, but I did try a vegan sausage thing about 6 or 7 months ago that I bought in Tesco's. It's basically mushroom. It's mushroom. It's sausage that's made of mushroom.
I want to try like the best one. I want to try one of the leading players to see what it's actually like. I watched that video that was on the site, and it looked good as like minced pork in a Chinese dish with the noodles. That looked sensible, but it had no consistency for anything else because obviously it's not going to have the fibers of meat.
What's interesting about them doing pork now is that pork is the most eaten meat globally.
Yeah, because the Chinese love it.
Everyone loves it, but the Chinese absolutely adore pork. And they have a problem at the moment with their swine flu epidemic that's going around in China. So
Right.
they're relying on government stockades of pork to fill the market. Okay. And that's what Impossible is trying to align itself with China because of it being such a big pork-eating country. I don't think it's going to work. Going to China and knowing the Chinese,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to opt for vegetarian or plant-based pork over the real thing anytime in the near future.
What's the Chinese? Do you know what the average Chinese person's attitude is to environmental climate change?
Yeah, they don't really care.
Don't really care.
Yeah. It's different. Younger people do. The younger people out, but they're not. They're like us. They care about it as much as you care about it, which isn't that much, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
They know it's a thing. They know it's a concern to be looked into, but yeah, that's about it. Older Chinese couldn't care less about it.
Yeah.
Likewise, it's the same mentality for something like this. It'll be a nice novelty. It's similar for us for plant-based food. It's a novelty, but if you're going to pick, if you're in a theme park and you're going around quickly to get some food, and you see a burger stand that's doing meat-based burgers, and you see a burger stand that's doing plant-based ones, you're probably instantaneously just going to go and queue up in the meat-based one.
Yeah,
you're not going to go and experiment or anything like that.
No, what we need to be able to do, we need to be able to create meat without having to have animals. Like, imagine if you can grow pork, you can grow a pig, but it's not. But it's pig meat, but it's not. You haven't needed a pig.
Oh yeah, lab-based. Well,
lab-based meat that actually is exactly as meat is, but it just doesn't require an animal. That's the solution to meat eating.
I think you can do that now. It's just it's very costly because you can grow a human ear in a lab or a pig's ear or something like that. So you can definitely do the meat. I just imagine it's incredibly costly and takes a long time.
That seems to me the solution to the problem is making that cost effective globally, which I know is going to be a huge issue, but that would work. I'd eat that.
The biggest solution is just to get over your fear and start eating insects. You're never going to run out of crickets.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. And I like shrimp and prawn, and they are insects just in the water instead of on the land. It's exactly the same. You haven't eaten them, though. I asked you this in China. You said you didn't eat them in the market, and I thought you didn't do it.
I still haven't done it.
I think I'd have to say, James, when I go to China at some point, I'll do it. Because that's the place to do it. I reckon if anyone's going to make it tasty, they will.
I'll probably do it at one point, but every single time I've gone up to the problem is I'm taking too long thinking about it. So when you go and buy like prawns or something like that, you just go up and you buy the prawns. You don't put any thinking into it. But when you walk up to a street food stand that's got crickets on sticks and scorpions on it and all that, you hesitate for a while and you look at it, and that's the problem. That hesitation and looking, that makes your mind go, actually, no, I'm not going to do this.
It is weird because it's exactly the same as having a shrimp. And I like a prawn. When I've been in Italy, the Italians show you how to pull the head off and suck the brains out because the flavors it like. But you would never do that with a beetle. But it's the same idea. It's weird.
I think a prawn does look more attractive than a beetle, just as an animal.
Yeah, but why is that? Because come on, they're the same concept. Exoskeletal insect creature.
I think the thing is because you're never going to find a prawn in the corner of your bedroom. Well, you might find a beetle there.
I don't know what you're doing in your bedroom.
That scares. Yeah, one flies in through the window and you don't know about it in the summer, and you sit down and this big fuck off beetle's next to you. That's gonna put you off, and that's what it is. People are scared of insects.
It's not that. It's because obviously you're not going to find a prawn in your house because they're in the sea. It's not that, but they're crustaceans, crabs, lobsters.
But that's why you don't have a fear of a prawn. Because you're not going to stumble upon it, but like a beetle, a spider, you're going to stumble upon it, and that gives you the fear.
That
and
might
then
be
you
right,
relate it all.
because if you stumbled upon a crab that didn't live in the sea, you'd freak the hell out. But we're not bothered by crabs. But a crab is a massively spidery exoskeleton thing, and if it lived on the land, we'd shit ourselves.
Yep.
Weird. You're right, because it's in the sea. We go, oh, it's all right. It's just one crab on the beach. Like the rest of them are in the ocean, so I don't give a shit. If they all came out of the ocean and attacked us, we wouldn't like it.
It might be because you're so unrelated to them. So, for example, like a crocodile and a bear, you're going to prefer the bear over a crocodile because it's a fellow mammal.
Mm. Yeah, but
And you can kind of relate more to it because you can understand its environment and how it lives, while you can't really understand a crocodile.
no, I can't understand a spider, and I certainly don't like those. But I don't freak out over a crab or a lobster. If you show me a lobster, right, and a big lobster like that, I'm not going to. It's a big exoskeleton. It's got legs and tentacles. I don't care. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. You put a spider that big in front of me, and I'm out of here.
Yeah, and I think that's because you know the chances of you being surprised by a lobster is very, very rare. But being surprised by a big spider, that's going to happen maybe once a year at least.
It's true. They're poorly educated lobsters. There's nothing surprising out of them.
But yeah, that's my theory anyway.
Oh, okay. All right.
You got any technology news to add? Because we've only got the 3 items there that were mine.
I didn't particularly. I was searching through on stuff, but I was struggling to find anything that I felt was.
Nothing has happened in 2020 that's worthwhile in Carl's mind to talk about.
No, things have happened, and I always end up reading more about ransomware stuff. And you'd already put a ransomware story in, and all that those were the ones that I was finding the most interesting at the moment, to be honest with you.
Okay, we'll let you off then.
Yeah, so I'll try harder for next time, but they were all focused around something we'd already started talking about. So I thought I'd already suggested something for conversation time, but something has rattled your cage today, so you've jumped in and overridden it.
Yeah, I have, but I'm gonna let you talk about yours to start off with. So I've just unstrike through it, whatever the opposite of strike through is. I've unstriked it, strike through. So you've written, you want to talk about why does CCTV, building management systems and alarm system companies know so little about internet security and networking?
Yeah, I've noticed this over the years of working in IT, and recently helped a client who've had a brand new building built. And of course, it has a building management system that looks after the air conditioning, the locks, the alarms, these kind of things. They've had CCTV fitted, and you're there as the IT person, and they say to you, right, how do we connect the building management system to the internet so we can access it? And you have a look at it, and it's not got any kind of encryption. It's got no 2-factor authentication. The CCTV system is published to anybody who's got an app on the phone, but you look at the app and it's years old. And when you talk to the companies, they have no idea about anything to do with IP addresses, firewalls, how this stuff works and how security works online. They just got a box. Yeah, you plug this box in and then you need to put it on the internet. And if you try and talk to them, they talk back to you like you don't know anything. And it's very difficult at that point not to try and be patronizing or say anything to people to override them, but they don't know what the bloody hell they're on about. Yeah,
they generally just want to punch a hole through the firewall and that's it.
That's it. Put a hole in the firewall and then you can connect to it. But this is running someone's building. You can ramp the boiler up and all sorts of stuff. You don't want that exposed to the internet.
Well, it's not just that as well. They don't care what they do when they do punch that hole through the firewall. So they don't care about any other security vulnerabilities that are now introduced to the network.
No. And every time I'm introduced to somebody who's like, now, this is the guy that does the building management systems for this company, knows nothing about IT. Why is this? They need someone who does now. This is 2020.
Yeah, you get it all the time. It's like, for me, I rarely deal with CCTV, but if I've ever spoken to somebody who's installing a CCTV, instantaneously I know far more than you do, and I've never even touched this.
You know, and they're still all using boxes that record to hard drives on site still.
Yeah.
Because they're cheap, probably.
It's also because it's the only way they can understand how we make money, by putting a maintenance contract on all that kind of stuff as well, because it will break.
When really what you want now is you want your CCTV to be streaming it to the cloud, and then you keep a history in the cloud of your service.
Yeah. Their literal argument against that is, what if someone cuts your telephone cable? Well, they've cut your telephone cable. It's the same as if they steal the hard drive from your on-site recording device that you aren't backing up. And even if you are backing up and they've cut the cable, well, it's not going to back up from that point onwards.
Well, I don't think most of them back up those boxes either that record.
No, they're normally like on a 24-hour loop.
Yeah, some of them might record a couple of days worth, or maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, whenever the hard drive fills up.
Yeah, when the hardware fills up, it overwrites it. They're not backed up. So if you go in and steal it, so if you're going to break in, you might as well just rob the box while you're on your way out. That sorts that out. It's just left on the side somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. At least with a cloud-based system, it's kind of hard to go and cut a telephone cable into a building, because you've got to know where that cable is to start off with. And depending on the building, there's going to be a lot of cables outside as well, and it's going to take up quite a bit of time cutting all these cables, hoping you got the right one before you break in.
Right, you're absolutely right. And if the customer I was working with recently, if you said, "Okay, let's cut the cable," you won't find it.
Yep.
It's underground. It leaves the building, because they built the building, goes underground and off somewhere. You will not find that cable. You need to go down the exchange. So it's not going to happen.
And you know, if people are going to do that to your business, they're very advanced criminals. So you've probably got more concerns that you need to look into. These are just going to be, as you could call them, bagheads. That's
right.
Your favorite expression. Yeah, they're just going to break in. So just having CCTV in there that's filming, going off-site. So we prefer things like Nest and cameras like that. So we've got one client who's recently installed Nest cameras in their office. Work perfectly. When the office is closed in the night, it automatically goes into an alert mode. So if it detects anyone in the building, it hears any chatting or stuff like that, they get an alert through to their mobile, and they just see straight away what's going on.
So I do know about that, James, on that topic. That's interesting is insurance companies and stuff haven't caught up. In the case of the customer that I went to recently, they've had to have a certain type of CCTV system that's monitored by a centre for insurance.
Yeah,
they won't deal with cloud-based systems.
Well, it's similar to car insurance, where people have got dash cams in now. It's only recently that some insurance companies will now give you a slight discount if you've got a dash camera installed.
Yep. Yeah, back to the old problem of the legal world keeping up with the technological world, and it struggles.
Yeah, it's weird, that one. So why can't you put it up to a cloud? I don't get that. What is the video going to be manipulated as it's getting uploaded? So it might not be true.
You're probably right that it's more likely that the insurance companies have a link in with the big players who monitor CCTV, and it's all about the sales and profit of those services that are linked together. It's probably it.
Yeah, sounds like cartelish.
Yeah, somebody doesn't want to lose their market, and so they're sort of close shopping it a bit to keep hold of it.
Well, I've always called the CCTV installers the old ones that stick in like crappy IP cameras and a stupid little fucking hard drive that records stuff. The cowboys, absolute cowboys. It's not a good service they're offering you. It's not good CCTV they're offering you. They're charging you thousands of pounds more than what you could go and buy, like a Nest camera off Amazon, which is going to do far more. It's going to record at a lot higher quality. It's going to have a much more advanced app. It's going to be nice and easy to use with a nice clean interface that you can get. You get a decent set for about £200 for two camera box or something like that.
Yeah.
And you then got these cowboys coming along installing this old stuff for a few £1,000s. That's just dead on arrival. Basically, it's so dated.
Oh, you look at the kit as well. If you look at what the kit is, that if you take a look at the model number and then you Google it, the stuff's super cheap Chinese manufactured crap. Really, it's like 150 quid for the box. You know the client's not paid 150 for that box.
And you know that there's a load of back doors into that, and that camera's streaming on the internet somewhere.
Once and then never updated.
Yeah. They're never even updated once. They're updated when they leave the factory. That's it.
And in the same realm, telecoms companies, the same sort of crap. You have a voice over IP system, right? So you get sold this telephone system that connects to the internet, and you go, oh wow, that's magical. You know, I have one of those. And then they insist that you have to have a PC in your office that connects to tell you whether who's on the phone or not. Why can't that be cloud-based? Why does that have to be in your office? Lazy. And then they charge you a bloody fortune for that box that you didn't want to have. Rubbish.
Which they don't update when Windows 7 expires. So we've got two clients that have got, one's on their contract of 7 years is finally coming near the end, so they're going to be moving to Google Voice. But their telecoms company didn't seem to be aware that Windows 7 was going to be end of life. So I emailed them at the start of the month asking them when they're going to send an engineer over to replace this computer, because it's now end of life. It's on our network. It's a vulnerability, so we're going to shut it down on that date.
Yeah.
And they still haven't installed it. They've come back saying we've got one, but we've run out of stock. That reminds me, I'll email them later today. Apparently, they can't just do an update on the machine. They've got to take the machine away, put a temporary Windows 10 machine in there. They come back with the original machine with Windows 10 installed on it.
Yeah, less said about that company, the better.
Yeah.
Right, so that's it. That's my rant about those type of companies.
Let's move on to recommendations then.
Okay.
I've got a recommendation. So over Christmas, I listened to Edward Snowden's book, Permanent Record.
Right.
It's very good. It's essentially like a sort of biography of his life, how it started, how he got into the CIA, and then it goes through all his thoughts and the reasons why he decided to do what he did, and download lots of data and release that data. He's generally done a very good service to humanity, really, and that all this stuff that the NSA, GCHQ, all those kind of organizations were able to break into and access. They pretty much had access to anything they wanted to, just because no individuals didn't realize how poor the security was on services that they were using.
We're talking about, James, here. They're breaking into what sort of stuff?
Data centers a lot. They had access to anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft's Azure and things like that.
Yep. Google Cloud. They could access anything. That was because the internet was very insecure.
When was this period in history?
This was the 2000s.
Okay, so about 10 years ago.
Up to about 2013, yeah. So it's only in the last few years that companies have become a lot more privacy conscious. Like HTTPS has only rolled out about 3 or 4 years ago, where every website's encrypted. Likewise with services and things like that, just because people weren't aware of this, how poor security was. It was great for security services because they could get into anything they wanted to.
Okay.
They had programs that they could type your name in, and it would just come back about all the information it could possibly find about you, emails you've sent and stuff like that, because in the past emails weren't sent encrypted. They were sent in the open, bouncing around servers so everyone could see what was going on. So it's only like in the last 6 or 7 years that things have changed, since 2013 when he did his whistleblowing.
Question on this one. Is the way that they monitored this, as I understood it, let's say the United States connects to Europe via, there's a couple of pipes that go under the ocean. It's the internet connections, these backbones of the internet. Am I right that at those points where they go off, they used to have basically a mirror that reflected all that traffic into their system and they could capture? Is that how they were doing it?
Oh, he never said that. It was just the systems that he designed and how they built it to be able to get the data they needed on anybody, pretty much anywhere. And then it's how it started going through his mind about how this was the wrong thing to do, against the American Constitution and things like that, and how he felt that the American Constitution was actually more important than his oath to America that he'd sworn, and just all these things crossing his mind. And he decided to download the data and do some whistleblowing, and how he went around doing that, how he made contact with the journalists, and how the stories were put out.
It seems to me that he's come out of this relatively unscathed. If you compare it to, say, Julian Assange, and how, he's nearly dead now.
Julian Assange is different to everyone else. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks was about Julian Assange. It just happened that he was spreading, releasing confidential information. But no one likes Julian Assange. Even Edward Snowden said, we had some conversations with Assange about releasing the data, and we fell out very quickly. Assange was all about himself being the focal point of the data and how it got released and all this stuff. It's all about him. While Edward Snowden, it's never been about him. And when you listen to him and talk to him, it's never about him. It's just about getting this information out so people are aware what was happening, what was happening with their data. So totally different attitude, and that's why Julian Assange that's why people don't talk about Julian Assange.
Well, he's nearly dead.
Yeah, no one really cares about him at all. Edward Snowden's now exiled in Russia.
Is that where he is? Okay.
Yeah, he's been in Russia pretty much since it happened. He had to escape out of I think it was China to Singapore to Russia or something like that. They had to go. It wasn't even that. They had to go special air route, so the airplane wouldn't fly over any land that had extradition to the US.
Yeah,
because they could then order the plane to land and then extradite him to the US. So he got to Russia. He said, as you'd expect, the Russian what they're called now, not the KGB, whatever their name is, but their Secret Service, greeted him and wanted to do a deal with him, which he says he refused to do that deal. And then as things went, Russia and America falling out even more so, it became Russia's favor just to keep him there as a resident and not allow it just to be awkward, not allow the Americans to extradite him back out.
Yeah, I get you.
And he's living there since. I think Edward Snowden should potentially get a pardon for what he's done, because actually what he's done is he's made everything more secure for us, because services are definitely more secure now than they were before, like with end-to-end encryption and things like that. We know they're more secure because you've got the FBI complaining about not being able to break into iPhones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which previously they didn't have that problem. There'd have been ways for them to get in. So he's made everyone more aware of how vulnerable you are to your data being exploited.
Yeah.
The only people he's really pissed off are spy agencies.
Yeah.
For the rest of everyone else, he's done a good favor for them.
Interesting.
But yes, Permanent Record on Audible by Edward Snowden. Good book.
Sound? I'm always looking for a new listen on Audible.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's about a 7-hour audio book as well. So that's good.
Yeah. Good.
It might be a bit longer than 7 hours, actually. Can't remember. But anyway, it's good. It was enjoyable, so that's why time flew.
Yeah. Could have done that whole book nearly yesterday in my drive, that.
Yeah.
I have a recommendation of something that's old. I'm always at true crime, always interesting. And I like to get into something when I get into something. And I started reading up and learning about the Yorkshire Ripper case in the late 1970s.
You'd have been alive then, wouldn't you?
In 75 to 81. So yes, I was very young indeed. Fascinating case, more so about the attitudes towards women and police work in the 1970s rather than the serial killer himself. The actual case of the serial killer isn't that interesting, because if the police had done a proper job and had listened to women and hadn't been a misogynist, male-orientated organization, he wouldn't have lasted half the time that he did. So he wouldn't have actually been that infamous as a serial killer. They kind of created their own problem. And This Is Personal is on YouTube. It was a ITV docudrama from the year 2000 that's 3 hours long, 4-parter, that tells the history of the police case into the Yorkshire Ripper and how they got so much of it wrong and how they could have interviewed this man 9 times before they caught him, and they only caught him on luck. And there's a class.
I don't think that's always to do with women, though, and stuff like that, because there's lots of serial killers that got away with things for a lot longer than they did because the police messed up.
This was more about the fact that when women were giving evidence to say, this is the man who attacked me, those who survived, and this is what he looked like, and this is how he sounded, the police dismissed them, going, no, he only kills prostitutes. You've misunderstood it, love. Maybe you didn't see things right. And they were very, very sexist, and they didn't listen to women. And they also didn't care about really who died until he killed a girl that wasn't a prostitute. And there's the way they said things in meetings, they would hold a press conference and say, an innocent woman has died. The 5 other women before that weren't prostitutes, you're saying weren't, it was like they were deserving of it. And it reflected a problem that I think Yorkshire police have had throughout their history, and it showed itself in the Hillsborough inquiry. Yorkshire police have had a lot of problems over their lives of basically running an old school police department that's run by men who do what men want to do and doesn't actually follow the rules very well. And it's been quite a fascinating study of Yorkshire Ripper, really interesting. He's not that interesting, but how the police operated in North Yorkshire in the 70s is pretty interesting stuff. When we're in a world today, James, where a lot of people complain and all this woke stuff on Twitter, and you've got a lot of people like saying this is outrageous and it's unfair and I want rules. They cannot get your hat on and go back 30 years, or no, 40 years, go back 40 years. You'll be able to get your hat on at how the world operated. And people think it's unfair now in first world Great Britain compared to then. They ain't got a clue.
What's this, an ITV series?
It was an ITV, docudrama mini-series.
On ITV Player, I guess.
No, you get it on YouTube. It's from the year 2000. It's old now. You get it on YouTube. It's good. And anything on the Yorkshire Ripper is pretty interesting insight into how 1970s policing operated. It's a different world now.
By the way, did you watch Don't Fuck With Cats that I recommended?
I didn't. You know what? I can't do it. I can't bring myself to watch it.
Why? There's nothing. You don't see any of the murders.
You keep telling me that, and I've got to get on with it. And I know I should, because I eat animals, and animals get killed in abattoirs, so I'm a hypocrite if I don't.
Well, you're actually replicating what this kind of documentary is about. It's how people care more about cats than humans. You're not watching it because there's some cats that get killed, but if it was don't fuck with humans, oh, you'd be all over that.
Don't deny that, James. I don't deny that.
It's very interesting psychology.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I know that that's the point of the series, because I read articles on it, and you're right. That's how it's weird, isn't it? It's like any animal that I don't know, I have a feeling for because it's a cat. But a human that I don't know, it's like I'm detached from it. It's weird.
Well, that's it then.
All right, that's it. It is it.
There's no more comments for this podcast.
No.
So we will see you in or might even be next week, actually, to get back onto schedule.
Yeah, it could be.
But contact us on LinkedIn. That's where we are.
Yep.
And maybe next week we'll actually talk about something significant that we've done, which we've forgotten about. I've just remembered we've put we're looking for someone to join the team, but we'll talk about that next week. Now,
that's right.
Out of time.
Yeah.
So there's the cliffhanger next week.
I'm going to eat some biltong now.
Go on then. Speak to you later.
See you later.
Bye bye.